Fox Sports.
We are Blackmore. We are Ohio.
It is just another absolutely beautiful weather night for baseball in downtown Cincinnati. And again, we welcome you to Great American Ballpark. Tonight, the second of three between Miguel Cairo, the hero last night for the victorious Cincinnati Reds, welcoming in the Washington Nationals, and he'll wrap it up here tomorrow. And hi again, everybody, alongside Chris Welsh. I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio. Seems like more times than not, whenever the Reds have asked Miguel Cairo to get a big hit for him since they brought him on board a year ago, he has delivered and did again last night.
Well, the lesson to the Washington Nationals, don't give him more than one chance. He had a chance earlier in the ballgame to drive in the winning run or the go-ahead run, was unable to do that, went down with a strikeout. But if you give him a second life, here's what could happen, and it did last night. A gapper for Miguel Cairo. The winning run comes across. A walk-off win for this Reds ball club. They played a lot of tight ball games. It's nice to see them on the W side of that one.
And a W tonight would mean the Reds are back at 500. They have not been there since the very first week of July. We'll see if they can get it done. And they're handing the ball to a very dependable young right-hander, Mike Leake. Chris Welsh will talk in depth about the way this season has gone for Mike Leake when we return.
Is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Of course, so much of the country not enjoying the kind of weather that we are enjoying the last better part of a week, to be honest about it. And certainly all of our thoughts and prayers are with those who might be tuned in tonight along the eastern seaboard of the United States of America. Please stay safe. Our weather, it doesn't get any better. Let's check in for more details with Jeff Creighton.
Well, a walk-off single last night by Cairo and a 5-4 win for the Reds. Great weather last night. A carbon copy tonight. 84 that first pitch. 7th inning. You're stretching in 79, 73 by the final out. And another win. Go Redlegs.
Sounds like a plan. All right, Chris, break it down for us. Mike Leake against the Nationals. What happened?
Oh, Mike Leake last time against the Nationals pitched a couple of these guys on the outer part of the plate, namely Michael Morse, and he went deep on him. He also left a couple of pitches up in the zone. He's really not going to have to worry about this. This is a team that is among the lowest in the league in a lot of their offensive categories. As long as he hits his spots, especially getting the ball inside when he has to, Mike Leake should not have too much problem tonight. But he really needs to get off the schneid. He's had a couple of bad outings in a row, and I expect Mike Leake to go out and pitch his ball game and keep his team right in it right to the very end.
All righty. Brandon Phillips and the Redlegs. Coming off a big night last night. Miguel Cairo, the hero. If you haven't seen it by now, here it is one more time. Game 2 is next.
Reds Baseball is brought to you by State Farm. For auto, home, life, and banking, get to a better state. By your local Ford dealer. Ford, drive one. By the Regional Tourism Network. Book your trip at CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili. Whenever you're feeling good and hungry, it's Skyline time.
Yes. Downtown Cincinnati on a Saturday night. And the Reds have taken the field. Another good crowd on hand. We had over 35,000 here last night for the series opener. And now Davey Johnson's lineup a number of changes. They'll start with Desmond at short. Worth goes over to center. Zimmerman at third. Morse into left field. Danny Espinosa at second. The former Red Lance Nix is in right. Chris Marrero, Chris talked about him a moment ago, making his major league debut, just called up from the minor leagues today. Wilson Ramos hit a 3-run home run here last night, and Ross Detweiler is on the mound. And starting it for the Reds, looking for his 11th win of the season, second-year right-hander Mike Leake.
Well, he has really established himself here in the second year, Tom, as a guy that the Reds can count on. He'll give you innings. He doesn't get hurt. He's able to keep teams off balance. He may not be a 9-inning complete game pitcher, but he'll give you 6 innings just about every time he takes them out. Even in his bad games, his last 2 games, once against the Nationals, once against the Pirates, 6 innings in each of those games.
Ian Desmond digging in. First pitch right down the can. Strike one, and this game is underway. Glad to have you with us on this Saturday night. Hope you're having a great weekend. Reds and Nationals will wrap it up tomorrow afternoon. Tickets are available, by the way. And it's supposed to be another picture-perfect day. Temperatures in the low 80s. By the time we hit first pitch at 10 minutes after 1 tomorrow, and Johnny Cueto will be on the mound before the Philadelphia Phillies open a series here Monday night. In fact, the Phillies, we're told, are already here in Cincinnati. Because of Hurricane Irene, they were scheduled to play a doubleheader today, and we're going to fly in tonight, not play at all tomorrow. But the weather and the reports were so bad, they decided forget both games. Phillies jumped on a plane, and they're in Cincinnati already. They'll have today and tomorrow off before teeing it up Monday night. 2-2 on Desmond. Told you a little while ago that Leake did not fare well against this Washington team when the Reds were on their last road trip. Mike lasted 6 innings, but he gave up 7 hits, 6 runs, 5 of them earned. Left that game trailing 6-3. He allowed 3 of the runs on 4 hits and a walk in the Washington first inning.
Yeah, one of those hits was a home run. It was an opposite field home run by Michael Morse. And it was not all that bad of a pitch at first look, but then you find out where Morse really likes the ball, and ever since then they've been trying to pitch him inside.
Nationals come into play tonight, 6 games under the 500 mark, 62 victories against 68 defeats. There's ball 4 to the first batter of the night.
Well, that is unfortunate, especially given the fact that Leake jumped out ahead of Ian Desmond, no balls and 2 strikes, then kind of toyed around with him and didn't really come right after him to try to put him away. Next thing you know, you got base runners and a jumbled up lineup, but they've got some guys in there that can do some damage.
Well, both starting pitchers in the game here last night had control issues. Dantrell Willis walked 4 batters in 7 innings. I beg your pardon, 5 batters in 7 innings, but he walked 4 in the first 4 innings. Chen-Ming Wong walked 4 batters, 3 in the first 3 frames. So now Jason Worth batting in the number 2 spot tonight, and his move from right field over to center field. He takes strike 1. Been a very, very well documented rough first season for Worth after signing the big free agent contract, leaving the Phillies and going to the Nationals. A .230 batter, 15 home runs and just 48 runs batted in. Desmond 20 of 29 in stolen base attempts. He'll draw a throw. Told you before the game last night, getting on base has not been the problem for the Nationals here of late. And they had guys all over the bases the entire game last night. But again, only able to manage 3 runs. During their 4-game losing streak, when runners are not in scoring position, the Nationals are hitting well over 300. There's an excuse me roller to Phillips, and he juggles, and he'll throw out Worth with Desmond advancing on to second base. We'll get back to that in a minute. The Reds on defense presented by Ford. Sapelt getting the nod out in left field tonight. Renteria back in the lineup at short. Cairo again at third with a battery of Leake and Ryan Hannigan. The problem for the Nationals here during this 4-game losing streak, hitting when runners are in scoring position. They are 2 for their last 42. And
that is the reason why Davey Johnson's coming here tonight with a a completely jumbled up lineup. Just trying to kickstart this offense, get a little life into something that has not been there for a while.
Ryan Zimmerman at .299, 9 home runs, 34 batted in his 72 games played this year. He takes strike one.
He's given Mike Leake a little problem in the few times that they faced each other. 4 for 7 is Zimmerman and nose at bats, and he did not look good at all last night against Dantrell Willis. It didn't seem like Zimmerman really saw the ball coming out of Dantrell's hand, but obviously based on what he's done in the past, he does see it better off with Mike Leake. Well, that's the same kind of swing he had last night a lot, and it just seems like he's giving up with his front side. He's stepping a little bit, maybe not in the bucket, but he's not really stepping towards the plate. Look how far he is from the dish, and his foot might be there, but the rest of his body's not, and he's missing that ball on the outer part of the plate by a lot. Might as well go right back on out there.
Try to go out there and just off the outside corner. 1 ball and 2 strikes with Desmond at second base. 1 out. And just underway here at Great American Ballpark. Away, 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 and again Zimmerman able to just foul it off.
You know what Mike Leake's doing out there? Very smart thing for Leake. Zimmerman's looking for the ball outside, but he's really not making the adjustment with his body. He's not really committed to it. So he's looking outside. Leake is giving him what he's looking for, but keeping it just a couple of inches farther outside than what Zimmerman can really handle. We take a look at where Mike Leake is throwing the ball. We'll take a look at our Fox tracks. And down and away is a scouting report on Zimmerman, obviously. And, of course, that is the ditto of that for a lot of players in this league. If you can put it out there, that's a good place to start.
Struck him out. 2 away in the inning.
Took a little bit off that one. Instead of a fastball, that was an off-speed pitch. Looked like a slider on Mike Leake's part. Got it up a little bit, but Zimmerman way out in front. In fact, not one of the pitches in this at bat would have been called a strike had Zimmerman just been up there and put that bat on the shoulder. Sometimes you see it better, and sometimes you don't.
So 2 away and a runner in scoring position. Here's Michael Morse at .316, 21 home runs, 72 runs batted in. With all the injuries that Zimmerman has been through this year, one that put him on the shelf for nearly 2 full months. Morse has been their most consistent run producer in their lineup day in and day out the entire year.
You know, from a hitting standpoint, Morse is the exact opposite of Ryan Zimmerman as far as how you want to pitch him. Zimmerman, you want to pitch him low and away. Michael Morse loves that pitch. He's a big guy, long arms. You like to crowd him with the fastball if you can get it in there.
Sharply hit, but right at Brandon Phillips. So a leadoff walk does not come back to bite Mike Leake. Reds are coming up in a scoreless game. about him in a minute. Dusty Baker's lineup has Brandon Phillips at second, Dave Chappelle out in left field with Joey Votto at first, Jay Bruce in right, Miguel Cairo at third, Drew Stubbs in center. With a latter third of Edgar Renteria, Ryan Hannigan the catcher for Mike Lee. What do we know about Ross Detweiler?
Well, he's a big, tall left-hander. He's a guy that really has come on strong in the minor leagues for the Nationals over the last couple of years. He's a left-hander that throws quite a bit across his body. And they've tried to correct him from a mechanical standpoint. He's been reluctant to do so, but he's got a big overhand curveball. You can almost call it a 12-6 curveball. He'll drop that anytime on anyone, and it's been a very good pitch for him, especially the last time he pitched against the Reds.
Detweiler has never won a game away from his home ballpark. Very young. Former #1 draft pick, as Chris mentioned earlier, and there's ball one to Brandon Phillips. Was brought up on July the 5th from AAA Syracuse for a spot start against the Chicago Cubs. And has not left ever since being brought up for that spot start.
Talked about him pitching across his body. We'll take a look at his motion right there. And you're going to see him kind of step this way, but pitch towards home plate. And a little bit awkward from time to time, but, you know, so far it's working for him. He was even worse, they tell me, than when he was in college and in low minor leagues. He's tried to adjust that a little bit. But he gives you a little different arm angle, especially with that overhand curveball. And he's thrown very well his last couple of times out, once against the Reds and his last outing against the Arizona Diamondbacks.
2-1 count on Brandon Phillips, and that's a bouncer to the right side and right through the legs of the young man making his major league debut tonight, Chris Marrero. Well, you may as well get it out of the way, as they say, right, Chris?
Well, you can't hide from the baseball. That's the other thing they say. The Nationals on defense, Morris Worth in center, Lance Nixon right, Ryan Zimmerman, Ian Desmond, Danny Espinosa, and making his major league debut, Marrero at first. Detweiler and Wilson Ramos will do the catching tonight.
And that defense brought to you by Ford. Chappelle lays down the bunt. He wasn't sure if that thing was going to stay fair, and he was trying to avoid probably running into the ball, and then nearly ran into the second baseman covering Danny Espinosa. When all said and done, ho-hum, a routine sacrifice.
But really not all that routine. Look where Danny Espinosa starts right here, and he really takes a long time to get to first base. Barely gets there in time. In fact, he, the ball, and the runner, Dave Chappelle, get there about the same time. If Chappelle had not stutter stepped out of the batter's box, a good chance that he would have beaten that one out for a base hit. Well, the Nationals have looked a little groggy here on offense the first couple of plays.
But now the amazing Joey Votto. Boy, the numbers just continue to get better and better seemingly every night. He's in one of those stretches right now where everything he hits seems to be right on the nose. Look at those last 10 games. 5 home runs, 12 knocked in, and better than a .450 average, and by the way, throw in 10 walks. Told you, Votto, the only player in the major leagues that's had a pair of streaks of reaching base consecutively at 25 games or more. Coming into play tonight, he's been on base in each of his last 29 games. Brandon in scoring position with one away here in the bottom of the first inning, and Detweiler to the plate. And he'll get Votto on a ground ball for out number 2. So now it'll be up to Jay Bruce if the Reds are going to score here in the first inning. 1 on Jay Bruce. Brandon Phillips at third with 2 away here in the bottom of the first inning. And Detweiler to the plate, fell down, and that'll bring in a run on a wild pitch. As we mentioned, he lost his footing as he was delivering that ball to the plate, working out of the stretch position.
I think everybody who's ever pitched has probably done that before, and you see him slip as he starts to deliver the ball. He's just trying to throw the ball somewhere within range of the catcher at that point. Brandon Phillips, who moved over to third base, will come on in to score.
Well, Brandon Phillips is safe at home. He is safe and secure.
New York life.
So the Reds have scored a run here in the inning without a hit, without a walk, without a stolen base. An error and a sacrifice, a ground out and a wild pitch. There's that breaking ball, Chris, you brought up earlier, and apparently just a little bit too low for Joe West's liking. 3-2 to Bruce.
Well, if you're going to be a hitter off of Ross Detweiler tonight, you've got to be committed to at least be able to hit the breaking ball. That is especially true if you're left-handed.
Bruce swung at ball 4, and that'll end the inning. But the Reds score a run and lead at the end of 1-0. Lawyers for serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK. Ohio. The 34 come from behind wins for the Reds this year. 4th most in the National League, but in the category of trailing after 7 innings. Tied for the most, 10 of those. They've had 4 of them in the last week and a half. Including the game here last night where they fell behind 3-1, made it 3-2 and a 6, tied it in the 7th, and then won it in the 9th on the base hit by Miguel Cairo. 1-0 Reds here tonight. Nationals bat in the top of the 2nd inning, and it'll start with Danny Espinosa. He'll be followed by Lance Nixon and Chris Marrero. 0-2 on Espinosa, who had a good night at the plate here last night. Had a double, a couple of walks, scored a run, also put down a sacrifice. Batting average might be down for Espinosa, but by and large, this guy's had a very solid rookie year.
Well, he had a very good first half of the year. And people all throughout the league raving about him. And, you know, there's some speculation that Danny Espinosa just might be a shortstop next year. They've got a young man coming up from the minor leagues, I understand, that will probably be up here in September that they're going to take a long look at. Who's also a shortstop, and they push Espinosa over to the other side of the diamond.
Second strikeout of the night for Mike Leake, and that's out number 1 here in the second inning.
Getting ahead of the hitters, throwing strikes, that's what it's all about for Mike Leake. He's got plenty of movement on that fastball. He's one of those pitchers that really operates anywhere from 88 to 91 miles an hour, but he'll throw the ball by you at 88 because his motion is so simple and quiet.
Of course, that was part of your CBTS Tech Talk tonight with Mike Leake.
You know, he's a real quiet guy. If you watch him in any of our post-game interviews about how he pitched that day, he hardly wants to talk at all. But if you start talking about the actual science of pitching or the art of pitching, he just goes on and on and on. I tell you, the guy really, for a young man, only a second-year major leaguer, has a great understanding of what pitching is all about. Knows his delivery, knows what he can do, what he can't do, and rarely does he try to do too much.
2-1 to Lance Nix. Of course, Nix a part of the Reds Central Division Championship team a season ago. Johnny Gomes also in that Washington dugout. You can say the same for him. 2-2.
Well, that is the pitch right there that so many left-handed hitters have just a hard time to negotiate. That front door fastball, Greg Maddux used it for years and years. You see the left-hander kind of giving up on it, and he's got such great arm action, Leake does. He's able to have it come back and touch the inside part of the plate.
Broken bat roller down to Cairo. Good firm throw to Votto is in time, and the first 2 retired by Leake here in the second inning. And we remind you, you can get ready for Reds action 30 minutes before every game with our Emmy award-winning rendition of Reds Live right here on Fox Sports Ohio. I mean, we have it all. Interviews, in-depth features, tech talk, Chris's checklist. Reds Live, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. It's good to see the checklist made a return tonight.
It did indeed.
After a night off last night. And this young man was one of the checklist topics.
Yeah, his nickname is El Nene, which means baby. Young man that was signed out of high school, went to Pace High School in Miami before the Nationals drafted him in the first round.
And in his first major league at bat, he lifts a fly ball to Drew Stubbs, and it is a 1-2-3. Second inning for Mike Leake. Checklist will be back in full force tomorrow. Well, right now on FoxSportsOhio.com, chat with our Hall of Fame baseball writer Hal McCoy. And you can get connected with Fox Sports Ohio's Game Connect, the ultimate second screen experience. Fox Sports Ohio is presented by 1-800-SAFE-AUTO and safeauto.com. Oh, look at that little Reds fan. Couple of them living large. Hanging out with mom and dad. Little grub right there within reach. Doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, it does if you can get blue lips at the ballpark.
Good point. How about that guy behind him? Got that target painted on his boiler. 1-0. Reds leading 1-0 as we go to the bottom half of the second inning.
He's ready.
He is ready.
Hit one out here.
Look at him. Espinosa sliding on one knee, and what a play to throw out Cairo. Wow. What a play by Danny Espinosa.
Well, Reds fans in the stands oohing and eyeing over that one. They're used to seeing their own second baseman make plays like this on a nightly basis. But Espinosa, that's about as good as you will find right there. Quickly getting up, throwing off balance, and right on the money.
We brought up earlier. I mean, that's a shortstop's range, and that's a shortstop's arm.
You're right about that. He's a very talented defensive player. Good. Look at that with our X-Mo, brought to you by Performance Honda.
Of course, Brandon Phillips was a shortstop.
I think if you went up and down the roster of every major league team, you'd find more guys that at one time or another in their amateur baseball days played shortstop than any other position. Even a lot of the pitchers. Except the lefties.
You're really stepping out on a limb there.
Well, always wanted to, I guarantee you.
Of course, we had a lengty chat one day. I'm almost positive you were down there one day a year or two ago when we were talking with Tony La Russa. And, he was talking at length one day about a left-handed catcher. And he has no idea why that is a so-called unwritten rule in baseball, going all the way down to amateur baseball, Little League baseball, about why a catcher has to be a right-handed thrower. Now, you can obviously come up with a laundry list of reasons why that should be the case. But he wasn't necessarily buying it. Of course, he hasn't run a left-handed catcher out there, but there are none coming up by the time they reach him in the major leagues to run him out there.
Well, he wasn't. Was he the manager of the Chicago White Sox when Mike Squires made some appearances behind the plate?
I believe he was.
Yeah, Mike Squires, of course, with the Reds right now, is one of the advisors to Walt Jocketty. He played left-handed third base and catcher in his major league career. So he's one guy that believes the lefties can do that.
And to the count on Drew Stubbs, and there's a tapper to short. Desmond will have to get rid of it quickly, and he just does. No, he didn't get it. How about that? That's where Desmond's got to be aware of who's swinging the bat.
Well, a little extra look down there by the first base umpire, Sam Holbrook. He took a little extra moment to make sure he had this right. And when you've got the speed of Drew Stubbs, you've got to wait, because oftentimes you anticipate the ball beating the runner. But Stubbs is at full speed right there, and he's closing in on the baseball. Next time a playoff, step in.
Stubbs 32 stolen bases in 39 attempts, and here's Edgar Renteria. We thought Renteria would have had what turned out to be the game-winning hit last night when he came up in the 8th inning with Dave Chappelle at second base and hit that line drive into center field. But Chappelle got a late break and wound up being stranded at third. Reds wanted, of course, in the bottom of the 9th inning. And there's a soft liner, left field base hit.
Well, a good spot for Edgar Renteria to be looking for fastball right here. You've got a speedy Drew Stubbs out there. You're thinking, all right, this might be a base stealing situation. So Detweiler is going to go with the fastball to offset the stolen base. Renteria anticipates, gets it, drives it in the left field. First and second, one down.
Now Ryan Hanigan. Wilson Ramos letting everybody know what's going on out in front of home plate defensively. Of course, with the way that Mike Leake can swing the bat, Ryan Hanigan has been unquestionably the best and the most frequently used Red in terms of hitting and running this entire year. There's ball one away. Leake 11 hits on the season with a couple of doubles and a couple of runs batted in. Stubbs takes off for third and not even a throw.
Well, he had a big jump out there. Detweiler really didn't pay much attention to him at all. You see, take one little glance over his shoulder, and that was it. No one was there to kind of push Stubbs back. Normally, you see the guy at the back end, Brett Torria, going to second base, still nursing that sore groin injury, so that's why Edgar's still at first.
Detweiler okaying the sign with Ramos. Are on the corners, one out. Reds trying to add to a 1-0 lead, and it's fouled off out of play to the first base side. And Detweiler ahead of Hanigan and 1 ball and 2 strikes. Very good in these situations this year has Ryan Hanigan been. Told you, in fact, the Reds have been the best team in the National League to drive in a runner from third base with less than 2 men out. And that number, maybe to some, I find it to be a very surprisingly low number, is 55% of the time. And that's the best in the league. Strike 3 called to Hanigan. He didn't like it.
Well, he'll have it all night long to tell Joe West how much he did not like it. Maybe he'll take a look at our Fox tracks and say, Joe, you know what? I didn't like it at the time, but I was told by our folks at FS Ohio that it indeed was a strike. So good call, Joe. Not likely that will be the conversation, but I'm just suggesting that might be a way Ryan Hanigan would approach things with Country Joe West.
He might buy this guy a strike later in the game with that approach. Mike Leake puts a fly ball in a shallow right field. Coming hard is Nixon. He'll get there to end the inning. Hey, Dantrell Willis is going to join us in the 3rd inning. We'll talk with him from the Reds dugout. The D train rolling into Fox Sports Ohio station. Top of the 3rd inning. The Reds out in front of the Nationals 1-0 in the 2nd game of this 3-game series. Of course, a starter last night, and we're still rooting for him to get that first win. I know he is too.
Yes, sir.
Despite going 7 innings and allowing only 3 runs, a D-train, Dantrell Willis, kind enough to join us from the Reds dugout. How you feeling today?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Doing all right. You know, Chris asked you in between the commercial break how your arm felt today, and you said what?
I said good. I went out there early and got my work in, and while I was still hot, got a little long toss in with Homer Bailey, and we all know how he loves to throw, so I was with the right guy.
Well, you mentioned the name Ted Power, and and in between innings, and of course Ted was your pitching coach in your time down at Louisville this year after signing with the Reds. Talk about Ted Power. You ever been around Ted Power before at any time?
No, I haven't, but he's a man you don't meet every day. Yeah, you know, in a good way. But I definitely worked with Brian Price. Oh no. But, yeah, he's a great guy, you know, a guy that knows the game, a guy that loves to pitch and loves to teach pitching. But between him and Brian Price and me working with him in the offseason, you know, I was definitely on board, and I definitely worked well with both of those guys.
Well, the guy who got you last night just got Mike Leake, Wilson Ramos.
Oh, he's definitely a young talent, very strong, and, you know, he definitely have a future in front of him.
He went out the back door on you last night.
Man, far out the back door, almost went in the river, you know. But, you know, hats off to him. That happens in this game. You know, these kids are getting stronger and stronger by the day. So you see the Little League World Series, these kids are going 300 feet in the Little League. So, you know, they're getting building stronger.
You talk about these kids, Dantrell. You're only 29.
I'm a salty veteran. I'm a salty veteran. They gave me that name in AAA. So, you know, I mean, I'm a salty veteran at 29.
That's a 1-1 game after the home run by Ramos. You know, Dantrell, we can hear scouts tell us, and you've read some of these quotes, I would imagine, you know, where people are saying, hey, Dantrell Willis is back to where he was, going all the way back to the great Florida Marlin days in 2003 when you first came up. Nobody knows Dantrell Willis better than you do. Would you agree that you're closer than you've been in a long time to those days, or no?
Well, I'm getting people out, and I haven't done it in a long time, so you know that's a good thing. But you have to adapt, and you guys know the game changes things and stuff like that, and you definitely have to work to stay aboard. But again, you know, I'm not really worried about the old Marlin days, you know, because those are the old days. You know, I'm worried about, more concerned about the new Reds days, and you know, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity, and I feel like I fit well around here. And I'm enjoying my time here, so you know I'm not really concerned about that. But as far as my strength and how I feel great.
Dantrell, is this salary drive time for you?
You have to come back to that. We'll have to come back to that. We'll definitely have to come back to that. But that's a great question.
Well, what you are up, but you know, hey, look, everybody knows that success in this game and in really any other business, success means a payday. For you, you're trying to get your career back on track. I think it's probably safe to say that's what you're thinking about, right?
I can honestly say God is good, and I'm just appreciative of the opportunity. You know, I mean, we make good money regardless, you know, what type of contract, and everybody wants to make those big dollars. But again, you know, my main focus this year was just to play good baseball, regardless if I was in AAA or in the big leagues, and have fun doing it and get back to what I know best, and that's going out there and playing the style of baseball that I know how. As you guys can see, you know, trying to get people out, diving all over the place, and it might not look pretty, but you know, I have a logic behind it, what I'm doing. But again, you know, that's all in God's hands and in the front office, and that's why they give those guys the nice suits and the AC to make those tough decisions on who they want to pay. But you know, I'm not worried about it.
Hey, Dantrell, let me ask you a pitching question.
Okay.
Last night, 5 walks for you, but 3 of those walks came out of the full windup. Do you feel better in out of the stretch position versus the full windup where you don't have that big leg kick?
No, I mean that's just a day-to-day type thing, you know, and that's one of those things that if you talk to any starting pitcher, you're not going to feel the same every day, and you know, it was just one of those days where, you know, I was out of sync in my windup, and then when my back against the wall, you know, I was able to make some more pitches and the focus and bear it down a little better. But you know, that's something I'm definitely going to work on in the bullpen tomorrow, and we'll go from there. But you know, it's one of those things where, you know, it's better to be wild out of the windup than wild out of the stretch.
Right about that.
You know, so you know, and with this defense, like I've said, you know, that's one thing about getting called up with this defense. You definitely want to work fast in this park because, you know, we got some Gold Gloves around in the infield and in the outfield.
Last thing I want to ask you about Dantrell before we let you get out of here. I know you were very excited about having the chance to take the decal off the wall out in Florida for the number of games remaining in that ballpark, which is where you broke into the major leagues. Tell us a little bit about having a chance to do that.
Well, the fans down there in South Florida voted me on the All-Marlin team, which goes back a long 14 years, I want to say.
Hey, somebody's got to be on it, right?
So it was definitely a high honor, and regardless in what position you're in and what field you're in, it's always good to get honored for the work that you put in. And they love me down there. For whatever reason, they love me down there. They're still selling Willis jerseys, so I got a chance to take the number down and, count down to their new stadium. Congratulations to all those people down there in South Florida. But it was definitely good times down there. Was able to win a title down there, and I had a good time.
Well, Dantrell, I know everybody in Major League Baseball that's ever spent any time around you is rooting like crazy for you. There's a drive into right center field, and that's a home run for Worth to give the Nationals a 2-1 lead. They've had a pair of solo home runs here in the third inning against Mike Leake. But Dantrell, all the best the remainder of this year, and hopefully we'll see you wearing a Reds uniform again in 2012.
I hope so. Thank you guys very much.
All right, Dantrell.
Thank you, Dantrell.
No problem.
Good guy.
Oh, man, really good guy.
And you get a little bit of an insight when you talk to him like that. And we know him, Tom, because we're able to see him on the plane and in the clubhouse and down before the game every day. But as fans who don't really get a chance to listen to him talk, you can see how his enthusiasm is just infectious. Has the ability to really pick a lot of people up.
Well, we thank Dantrell for his time. We thank the Reds for allowing that to happen. Two and 0 to Ryan Zimmerman. Broken bat back to the mound. Leake surrenders a pair of solo home runs. It's the fourth game in his last 5 starts. He's allowed at least a couple of homers. He's down a run. Reds fans, you know the drill. If a player for the Reds hits a Toyota sign during our game tonight, David Meisner of Cincinnati, who currently drives a 2011 Camry. Well, there's a surprise. He'll win the beautiful new Tundra on display here at Great American Ballpark. So good luck, David Meisner. Top of the order for the Reds. They're down 2-1 against Ross Detweiler here in the bottom of the third inning. Brandon Phillips reached on an error by Chris Marrero. Leading off the Reds first. They butted him to second. A ground out moved him to third. A wild pitch brought him in. That one just beyond the reach of Desmond into left center field, and Phillips aboard for the second time tonight.
Well, Brandon Phillips has really taken to the leadoff spot this time. You know, he's been trying the leadoff spot several other times, but it seems like now he maybe believes in it, maybe believes that the team needs him there. I see him down a little more squatted in his stance, a little lower, legs a little bit wider, maybe keeping his head still a little bit more. But more than that, I think a controlled swing, much more than we saw when he was in the number 4 spot in the lineup, where he was really swinging wild from time to time.
Dave Chappelle down a strike. He put down a bunt to advance Phillips to second base his first time up tonight.
Must be nice to have the talent like Brandon Phillips to plug you in a number 4 hole, you swing like a number 4 hitter and still be pretty good at it. Want a leadoff hitter? I can do that too. Gives the Reds a whole different dimension when you get that leadoff hitter on, though.
Hard hit ball by Chappelle right by Zimmerman. And so the Reds have it working to begin things here in the last of the 3rd inning on consecutive hits from Brandon Phillips and Dave Chappelle.
Boy, turned on a fastball quick that time, right underneath the glove of Zimmerman. Zimmerman's pulled in because Chappelle might lay a bunt down like he did the first time up.
Well, that's a nice swing.
Yeah, he rips it through there on an inside fastball, I'll tell you that.
Now Votto, he bounced out to Marrero, is only at bat tonight. Strike 1.
You know, it seems like Joey Votto all year long has been locked in on the breaking ball. I mean, he makes such a habit of making sure, especially against left-handers, that he waits long enough to get to the breaking ball. But lately, he's more locked in on the fastball than he's been in a long time. Turning on a lot of inside fastballs when they try to get it in there.
Well, they're coming in there right now, and it's off the inside corner, a ball and a strike.
Little conversation there between Ramos and Joe West. He says, hey, do you want me to ask down there to third base and get a second opinion?
One and one to Joey Votto. Broken bat roller. Marrero throws it into left field, and Phillips missed third base. And now he's going to take off for the plate, and he'll score.
Davey Johnson shook the lineup up. They brought up the young kid out of AAA, Chris Marrero, to play first base, trying to get a little more offense in the lineup. But the defense of Marrero has cost him already. An unearned run into first due to an error by Marrero on a ground ball. This time he fires it into left field. Brandon Phillips goes around the bag. He's not sure whether he touched it or not. He may have, and just to make sure he goes back, Jason Worth doesn't, or make it, Michael Morse doesn't pick it up in time, and he'll scamper on in with run number 2.
Yeah, that throw was really not all that bad. It looked like what happened was on the replay is that Ian Desmond was blocked from seeing the ball by the runner Dave Chappelle.
Well, Chappelle got down there so fast that Ian Desmond not only may have been blocked, visually shielded, but he's going to get out of the way of Chappelle coming in there. Watch him kind of shy away and says,
That's a bad throw.
I'm going to do a little alligator arm right here. I'm not putting myself out there with some guy sliding at my right at my knees.
That was a much better angle right there. 2-1, still nobody out. 2-2 game, and Jay Bruce, who struck out his first time up, takes ball 1 here.
Well, you have the risk here of Jay Bruce facing Detweiler. Detweiler maybe trying to do too much right here, thinking, hey, these guys aren't playing behind me in the field. Good time to pick on a nice fastball.
That's where Dantrell was sitting when he joined us from the dugout. That was a bullet down there. Two and one to Jay Bruce, and Detweiler going to pay a little bit of attention to Dave Sapelt, who has not attempted a stolen base since being brought up to the big leagues. 3-1. Both runners go, and it looked like ball 4 to Jay Bruce. It was ball 4 to Jay Bruce. So the throw didn't matter, even though Sapelt was called safe by Chad Fairchild down there.
Well, Joe, Davey Johnson went running out of the Nationals dugout. He so wanted to go down and argue with the third base umpire, Chad Fairchild, on that, because they thought they for certainly knew that he got it wrong. And he got about 6 steps out of the dugout and saw Jay Bruce trotting over to first base and said, well, I'm not going to argue, but he still waved his arms down there at Fairchild and said, you still got it wrong, even though it was ball 4.
Well, now the pitching coach, Steve McCatty, going to come out and visit with Detweiler, who's in a world of trouble. He's already allowed 1 run, and the Reds have him loaded with nobody out.
Well, they did try to do too much of that at bat with Jay Bruce up there. You could see him overthrowing the fastball, trying to get some things done that his defense couldn't do behind him.
Well, 1 week from today, Chris, it all gets started. College football is back in business. Returning to Fox Sports Ohio, the Miami Redhawks will go into Columbia to take on the Missouri Tigers, ranked 21st in the country, at high noon. And then at 7, UC Bearcats will kick off their season. They'll take on the Austin Peay Governors at Nippert Stadium. Catch all the action right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Everybody fired up for the start of college football. And that'll be later this week. Bases loaded, none out for Cairo. And first pitch swinging, fouls it out of play off to the first base side. How are your South Florida Bulls going to be this year? Another big year for them, is it?
I haven't checked on them yet, Tom. I'll let you know.
Oh. No, I mean, your reaction. You haven't checked in on you.
I really haven't.
Dialed in.
This is baseball season for me.
I know, but normally
I know
you're dialed
we're
in
only
on
a week
this
or
stuff.
so away from college football. NFL preseason's going on. But I'll give you a full report when I find something good about them.
They're loaded for Cairo with nobody out. Reds trying to break a 2-2 tie here in the last of the 3rd inning. 1-2. In the air, well hit into right field, backing up Nix. This will score a run. Sapelt taps the plate, making it 3-2. Advancing from second to third is Votto, so Cairo does his job. For Drew Stubbs. He had an infield hit, stole a base, was stranded at third, and there you go. The inning began with a couple of hits from Phillips and Chappelle. But so far, the biggest play in the inning was Joey Votto's ground ball right at the first baseman Marrero, who turned to throw to second for the force out and threw it into left field. Stubbs a fly ball, plenty deep enough to drive in another run. Worth shy of the warning track. Tagging and scoring Votto. 4-2 Cincinnati.
Picking up those easy runs, that is what it's all about. You get a runner down there at third base, less than 2 outs. All you need to do is get it into the air. That's where a strikeout kills you, but a lazy fly ball to center field gets you some high fives. Hey, Reds fans, if you're in the restaurant industry, let JTM Food Group help you with great tasting products for your menu. Inspired solutions, better results. JTM.
Renteria singled into left field, his only time up. 4 runs, 4 hits for the Reds, 2 runs, 2 hits, and 2 errors for the Nationals. And the 2 errors have been killers for Washington early on in this game. The error by the first baseman Marrero in the first inning, the error by the first baseman Marrero here in the third. Stubbs goes. And a perfect throw, Jay Bruce, I beg your pardon, and he's thrown out to end the inning. But the Reds come up with 3 and lead at the end of 3, 4-2.
ATM Food Group, proudly serving America's restaurants, schools, retailers, and our military around the world. JTM Food Group. By your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. For a dealer near you, visit buyatoyota.com. And by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO.
Reds lead at the end of 3, a 4-2 game. Well, you talk about a couple of Cincinnati institutions. I mean, 2 men who have done so much great and so many great things for so many in this city. Of course, Bob Castellini from the Cincinnati Reds and hiring so many folks around the area. And then Neil Bortz with a Reds hat on there. Of course, he's been involved in town properties for many, many years. His wife, Susie, there at the other end in the pink. But boy, you talk about 2 pillars of just so many great deeds in this city. Not only business deeds, but philanthropic deeds. Neil Bortz and Bob Castellini and their families. That's a great shot. So one away in the inning for David Espinosa. He struck out his first time up. Reds have taken advantage of a couple of defensive miscues for Washington to get a run in the first and a big part of a 3-run third. Two and one. Boy, what a nice little break it must be for the Philadelphia Phillies. Obviously, they're very concerned about their families and so many others in the Phillies front office and fans in the Philadelphia area with the repercussions of the hurricane passing along the eastern seaboard. But that traveling party got out of town today, we brought up earlier. And here you are in the waning days of August. Some refer to it as the dog days of August. Of course, the Phillies know they're going to be playing baseball deep into October. But their doubleheader was rained out today. They immediately flew to Cincinnati, and here they are in the final week of August, and they get 2 days in a row off.
Well, somewhere down the road, they have to make those games up, and that's not going to be very much fun for them in the month of September. But they have set their pitching rotation now that they are in town. Homer Bailey will face Cole Hamels on Monday. Roy Halladay will pitch against Bronson Arroyo on Tuesday. Dantrell Willis will face left-hander Cliff Lee, so a matchup of a couple of southpaws right there. That on Wednesday. All those games at 7 o'clock, and then the 12:35 game on Thursday. Mike Leake again versus Vance Worley.
That Philadelphia team has clearly put it all together, not only during the offseason, but adding the likes of Hunter Pence to try and gear up to try and win the whole thing one more time. They were extremely disappointed the way things turned out last year in the postseason after winning in the opening round, and they were quickly taken care of by the San Francisco Giants in the National League's Championship Series. Still 3-2 on Espinosa.
Just goes to show you how quickly things can change in a game of baseball. I mean, when they came through Cincinnati, of course, played the only one game in Cincinnati, but in that 3-game set against the Reds, they looked very, very good, like juggernauts, especially with the game that Roy Halladay pitched against the Reds, where they didn't sniff him.
This will be the ninth pitch in this at bat. Mike Leake against Danny Espinosa. Finally gets on the same page with Ryan Hannigan, and he struck him out. Second time that Leake has fanned Espinosa tonight. 3 of them total in the game.
When Mike Leake is right, this is one of the best pitches he throws. That little slider down and in. He drops it right on the back foot of a left-handed hitter. Looks for a moment like it might be a strike because he's got enough movement on that fastball that he can back it up into the plate. So if you don't read that spin early on, you'll have a check swing and a lot of strikeouts that way. Roy Halladay uses that pitch quite often, and we may get to see him do that on Tuesday. You may want to go down and warn some of those Reds left-handed hitters about that before Tuesday comes around.
Oh, and 1 to count on Lance Nix. We remember the last time the Reds and Phillies got together, Chris. You and I were together for that series in Philadelphia, and we never thought it would end.
You liked that game, didn't you?
That was fun.
Yeah, I have to thank you now. You know, I've looked back on that game several times, and you didn't carry me. You carried me the last
6
or 7 innings.
Crying out loud. We had a great time. I mean, it was a long night. 19 innings back on May the 25th. Of course, it didn't end well for the Reds. They got beat 5-4. There's a base hit into left field. But that was a fun night. That was a night Roy Halladay started in that game. The Reds had 11 hits against him, but could only manage 3 runs. All right, time now for our AT&T trivia question. With 2 outs and 1 on after the hit by Nix, which Washington pitcher won the American League pitching triple crown 3 times? Pitching triple crown would be wins, ERA, strikeouts in a single season. Washington pitcher. We're talking, of course, about the history of Major League Baseball in the nation's capital. Doesn't have to be a national. In fact, it's not a national. There's a base hit into left by Marrero, his first major league hit. So they'll take that baseball out of play as Marrero gets his first major league base hit. Congratulations to him.
Pretty good looking swing. Had a lot of looks at batting practice. Chris Marrero, and man, he's got some serious power. Likes to hit the ball the other way. Pulled off that one a little bit, but they tell me he is a hitting machine down in the minor leagues.
0-1 to Wilson Ramos, who homered out beyond the Reds bullpen in the deepest part of left center field back in the 3rd inning.
Good pickup for the Nationals here. They got him in that trade that sent Matt Capps to the Minnesota Twins. We've already seen his arm tonight as he threw out Jay Bruce on an attempted stolen base. He's hit 2 home runs in this series against the Reds. One going opposite field last night against Dantrell Willis. Right now he's a number 8 hitter in the order. I'm not so sure how long he's going to be down there.
And what you thought was going to be a very easy 4th inning for Mike Leake is all of a sudden turned a bit worrisome. Although you do have the pitcher due up next. But Morse and Espinosa will retire to start the inning. Since then, Nix and Marrero have back-to-back singles. And Mike has fallen behind Ramos 2 balls and no strikes. When you're on the mound right now, I mean, are you already thinking about perhaps just letting this at bat get away from you and deal with the pitcher?
Well, not necessarily, because you certainly don't want him to go up there and have a blue pit and a man on third base. Now all of a sudden you score 2 on that and you tie the ball game up. You want to have him lead the inning off next inning if you can, but you're down 2-0 to a pretty good hitter.
Strong man here.
Very strong guy. That's a hanging breaking ball right there. I believe it was in Mike Leake's game that he hit a line drive over the right fielder's head in Washington. That was also very well struck.
Big pitch right here. 2-1 on Ramos. 2 on and 2 men out. And it's off the outside corner.
All right, so you go 3-1. If you lose him right here, really not that big a deal. You don't want to lose it because you really would like to have Ross Detweiler lead the inning off next time. But better to load the bases, get the pitcher out, than make a mistake right here and let Ramos beat one all over the yard.
Threw him a high fastball and he waved right through it. Blake O'Kay's assigned with Hannigan. Runners get started. 3-2 delivery, and it's fouled off out of play. Well, Hannigan and Leeds seemingly tonight, Chris, have had a little bit longer, or a number anyway, of shakeoffs from Leak out on the mound, and taken a little longer to get things on the same page, it seems like.
Well, Mike Leak has not been picture perfect with his control. And I think that Ryan Hannigan recognizes that, and he's gone out there to do two things. Number one, make sure we got the right pitch in order, and number two, give him a little pep talk.
Another 3-2 on Wilson Ramos. Got him swinging and out of the inning. Well done by Leak. Couple of 2-out hits, 2 left on base. Middle of the fourth, the Reds with a 2-run lead. Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. Friday night, September the 16th, a special salute to local heroes. If you arrive early for a pregame ceremony, police departments will join Dusty Baker on the field, plus one lucky police crew will win a red Toyota Tundra, thanks to your local Toyota dealers. For tickets, Friday, September the 16th, 381 Reds, or visit Reds.com. That's always a great night since they've started that package. Certainly a sticky top of the fourth inning for Mike Leak, but able to chew up Mr. Ramos to end the inning, and off we go to the bottom half with the Reds leading 4-2. Off the end of the bat, a broken bat roller off the bat of Renteria. 1 pitch and 1 out for Detweiler here in the fourth inning. Come for the Reds Day for more fun. Visit the new Penguin Palooza exhibit at Newport Aquarium and make it a getaway weekend. Book your trip at CincinnatiUSA.com. Thinking of Country Joe West back there. We were talking about his singing career and how he's recorded a number of country western CDs and likes to stop into, you know, a country western joint, whatever town the umpiring crew rolls into. I thought, you know, it might be pretty nice tonight. Peter Frampton is playing down the road. Obviously not a country western. He's a rock and roller. Makes his home right here in Cincinnati as Peter Frampton. But maybe Country Joe could go down there and do a nightcap.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Peter Frampton tonight.
He's a man of many, many talents.
He is.
33 years as a major league umpire for Joe West. You know, he was a football player.
Yep.
Played as a safety at East Carolina, and then he transferred to Elon College and became a quarterback there. They had a championship team. He was the MVP on that ball team. In fact, he's in the Sports Hall of Fame at Elon College.
That's also in North Carolina.
Over 4,200 games umpired for Joe West.
Man. There's a lot going on music-wise around town this weekend. There's a bouncing ball foul. You know, one of the great events that's been put together the last number of years, you know, up around your old neighborhood when you were growing up, you know, the Days of Blue Ash, they call it now. The big weekend that's going on this weekend. And I'm trying to remember who the big act they had was last night. Tonight it's Creedence Clearwater Revisited. They played at the ballpark earlier this year. But that is a great weekend up in Blue Ash.
Well,
Pat Benatar is also out there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I assume that as soon as the final out is made here, you're going to hop into the Fox helicopter and take you right up there to Blue Ash?
I don't know. We got to meet that guy whose helicopter's landing right across the river.
Yeah. He's been buzzing the stadium all weekend.
It's nice. You got pull on that side of the river. There's a base hit into left field by Ryan Hannigan. Or at least you tell me you do.
Well, I might be able to get you out of a parking ticket, but that's the extent of it. As long as it was metered. In Walton.
Thanks a lot.
It's getting smaller and smaller.
It really is. Mike Leake, the batter, 1 on and 1 out, and Leake pushes a bunt that is fielded by Marrero, and he makes a tag on Leake, and that's an out. Give Mike the sacrifice, his 10th of the year, and Hannigan in scoring position. Of course, you know, the first baseman now, Marrero's over there talking with Sam Holbrook. It looked like the tag was made. But that is still a ball that is in play. And if he turns around and throws that ball down the right field line, Hannigan can come all the way around and score.
You're exactly right. And actually, he had a chance if he had tagged the runner and then immediately thrown to second base, may have had a chance to get Ryan Hannigan, because Hannigan was only about halfway to second. Looks like Marrero's defensive work at first base still a work in progress. Signed out of high school, Marrero was out of Pace High School in Miami as a third baseman. Played a little outfield and third base in the minor leagues. They converted him over to first base a couple of years ago. And they say his defensive game and all facets thereof have gotten so much better. But still, you get to the big league level, stage is a little bit higher, and he's seen some little pressure tonight.
That ball is kissed down the left field line by Phillips, and that is up against the wall. It'll plate another run. Slide into second, and he is out at second base, but the run does count. It's an RBI single for Brandon Phillips. And at the end of 4, the Reds extend their lead to 3. Begins with a Fox NFL Sunday doubleheader. Some will see the Falcons take on the Bears, and later the Giants and the Redskins. Check local listings for the game that may air in your area Sunday, September the 11th, with the Bill Ford Tough Fox NFL pregame show getting underway at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Reds 5, Nationals 2, top of the 5th inning. Mike Leake to face Detweiler to start things, and there's strike one. Detweiler fights it off and dribbles it foul up the first base line, and Leake ahead at 1-2. Desmond to follow, and then Jason Worth. Reds have won 2 in a row, 6 of their last 10. Their last road trip, they dropped 2 out of 3 to these Nationals before winning the final 2 series on the trip. In Pittsburgh and Florida, there's a fly ball into right. 1 out. All right, time now for the answer to our AT&T trivia question. The big train, Walter Johnson, 1913, 1918, 1924. Not a bad career record. 417 wins against 279 losses. Career ERA of 2.17. That's pretty good.
You wonder when you see a film clip like that of Walter Johnson throwing sidearm, why there aren't more pitchers throwing sidearm. It seems like a more natural delivery, does it not?
It does.
I mean, if you talk to any orthopedic surgeon, they'll tell you the same thing, that overhand motion is one of the hardest things you can do on your shoulder. Plus, you can freeze up some right-handers with that sidewinding motion, too.
You know, I've always wondered, and nobody's going to be able to tell you a definitive answer. They can look at stats, but there's nobody around that, you know, could be able to talk about watching Walter Johnson and what kind of batters he was facing going all the way back to the very early part of the 1900s. You know, Chris, I've always wondered, though, you know, were those guys just that good, or was the offense just not very good? Because the numbers really are staggering from back in those days, really for about the next 30, 40 years until you got into the 1950s, where you still had some great pitchers. But you have the evolution of some unbelievable offensive players as well. Not that there weren't some before them, but you know where I'm going with this. You know, the pitchers, we know they left them in the game and they threw complete games and all that kind of thing. But you just wonder, well, what kind of offensive players were they pitching against back in those days?
I think it's first impossible to compare generation to generation, but within side of any one generation, you're going to have a few players who are so much better than everybody else that they're superstars. And obviously Walter Johnson in his generation was one of those guys that was just so much better than everybody else that you recognize him as one of the best of all time. Well, the comment on the offense, I don't know. I mean, I imagine the strike zone was called a lot bigger back then. The baseballs were all beat up. You could make that ball dance with a couple of scuffs on it. I mean, there are pitchers that can make that ball go one way with a scuff and hold it the other way, and you can make it run the other way. They were loading the ball up with saliva and slippery elm and everything else to make that ball slide all over the place. They were knocking guys down if you looked at them funny. So, and I think that the choice of baseball bats were nowhere near what they are
Right.
now. I mean, they didn't teach hitting the way they do now. I mean, you got guys who are spending the winter in the cages all winter long working on their craft now, when back in those days you were digging ditches in the winter time to make ends meet. It's a different deal, but you do have to recognize that those certain superstar players in any one generation, have to distinguish themselves as the best. That's why he was one of the original inductees into the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 2 on Jason Worth. Desmond over at first with 1 out, and Leake wanted that call, didn't get it. Worth is bounced out to second and homered to right center field. Two is popped up and over the screen and out of play. Worth grew up in Illinois. He was born in Springfield. He went to Glenwood, Illinois High School, and was going to be a baseball player at the University of Georgia before he was a #1 draft pick, 22nd overall by the Baltimore Orioles in '97. We brought up earlier, he was drafted as a catcher.
I played ball with his dad a year in Columbus for the AAA team for the New York Yankees. Dennis Worth, good hitter, third baseman. Might want to go back head first next time.
Runner goes, and a slow roller that ricochets off the mound. Edgar Renteria, and he'll throw that roar 2 away in the inning. So now Ryan Zimmerman, who struck out and bounced out to Leake. Reds got a run in the first. The Nationals got a pair of solo home runs from Ramos and Worth to take a 2-1 lead in the top of the third. But the Reds got 3 in the bottom of the inning, got 1 more in the bottom of the fourth, and lead 5-2 with 2 outs and 1 on here in the fifth. Strike 1 to Zimmerman. Already the 90th pitch of the game coming up from Mike Leake, and we're only in the 5th inning. 1-2 to Zimmerman. Leake has only walked 1 batter, so that hasn't been an issue, but he has gone to a number of 2-ball counts, 3-ball counts. There have been a couple of lengthy at bats, double-digit pitches during at bats. And the Nationals do have 5 base hits against him. Zimmerman played collegiately at the University of Virginia. The story has been told many times before. He was a teammate of the former Arizona Diamondback turned Baltimore Oriole Mark Reynolds at Virginia. One and two on Zimmerman. And this is playable and should end the inning. Late bare hands, throws on to Votto, and that's out. A hit, a man left, middle of the fifth. Reds 5, Nationals 2. Take on the Brewers and be one of the first 40,000 fans through the gate and receive an exclusive 2011 team photo thanks to Orville Redenbacher. And if I'm not mistaken, that is the Johnny Bench night when they unveil the statue of Johnny Bench on Saturday, September the 17th. So I have no doubt that that will be a hot ticket here at Great American Ballpark. So if you're thinking about coming down for team photo night, there'll be a bonus to that. Nice play in the hold it short made by Desmond to throw out Sapelt one away.
Now we've seen the second baseman David Espinosa or Danny Espinosa make a great play going into the hole behind second base. Here's Desmond's chance. He also has a fine arm and a lot of athletic ability. A little inconsistent on defense. 34 errors last year. Close to 20 of them this year. 22.
Votto for 2, reached on an error and has scored a run. Breaking ball in there from Detweiler is a strike.
Yeah, that's the pitch that we have not seen really Ross Detweiler throw a whole lot tonight. Last time when he pitched a very good ball game against the Reds, he threw a whole bunch of overhand curveballs.
Came back with a nice fastball at 92 miles per hour right on the outside corner to get ahead 0-2.
Well, all the fastballs he throws are going to be running away from left-handers because he throws so much across his body.
He's had his way with Votto tonight, getting him 3 times to hit ground balls to the first baseman. There 2 out in the 5th. All right, now Chris, you do a lot of work with the young pitchers. Pitched in the major leagues for a number of years. You know a lot about the art of pitching. The windup of Detweiler, does that worry you looking ahead down the road?
Well, you know, there are some pitchers that have had a lot of success throwing across their bodies. Al Leiter being one. We talked about him last night. Jared Weaver right now, currently a really fine pitcher, does that. But I think most pitchers, as they get more mature and lots of innings under their belt, end up being a little more in alignment with between their footwork where they start and where their target is. It's really not all that bad. I mean, he was worse, I think, as a minor leaguer. They adjusted him a little bit. I've been told it puts a little more stress on your arm. I can't verify that, but I suggest to all youngsters when I work with them, if they're in their early teens and we're talking about pitching, it's a linear exercise. So, if you're aimed in where you're going to be pitching, it's a lot easier to throw it there than it is if you step one place and try to throw it another. And the same goes for an infield throw. Third baseman across the infield, point their shoulder, point their feet right where they're going to throw the ball. Why shouldn't pitchers be the same way?
Full J. Bruce Badley in a very, very tight fifth inning for Mr. Detweiler. The Tigers aside in order. We move to the sixth with the Reds in front by 3.
It's my pleasure to welcome in once again Tom Richards, retired from the Navy in 1999, and this guy was one of the best of the best. Retired a flag officer in command of Naval Special Warfare Command, responsible for the training, readiness, and deployments of all Navy SEAL teams. And he commanded over 5,000 personnel and over 25 commands throughout the United States and 7 countries around the world. And the Navy SEALs amongst the best of the best, in my eyes, that the military has to offer. You guys have been in the news a lot in this past year, getting Osama bin Laden, and unfortunately news on August 6th where a devastating loss of 22 Navy SEALs in Afghanistan. I know you're involved with the Navy SEAL Foundation. What does the foundation do to help in cases like that?
Well, the Navy SEAL Foundation is that safety net that exists to support those families where some of the military organizations stop. We provide that additional safety net. One of the most interesting things, or the greatest things about the foundation, is that when those SEALs deploy, they know that their families are going to be taken care of by the Navy SEAL Foundation. Tragedy hits, we're going to take care of their families. We're going to make sure that they have whatever it is that they need to deal with the situations that, unfortunately, they did not anticipate.
And it's more than, obviously, the 22 lives lost in Afghanistan. Their families have children, and you like to take care of them as well. That is the key importance of the foundation.
Yeah, we take care of the guys. We take care of their families. As you just mentioned, there were 22 SEALs. There were 5 Army aviation individuals who lost their lives. Because they were there supporting the SEALs, our Navy SEAL Foundation is taking care of those Army aviator families as well. One of the things that we do is we make sure that every one of those children is going to have the opportunity for a college education. There are Navy and DoD-wide programs for that. We step in on top of those programs. We make sure that their dental expenses are taken care of over the years when the military benefits fade out.
Well, 2 outs quickly here in the inning. I want to get this in. If anyone's listening out there, how can they get involved in helping the Navy SEAL Foundation?
One of the easiest things that you can do is text SEAL 90999, and that'll be an automatic $10 donation to the Navy SEAL Foundation. But look us up, Naval Special Warfare, NSW organization, on the web. We're there. Take a look at what we do and recognize that what we're about is the family.
Absolutely. Let me shake your hand. You're one of the best of the best, and you've trained some of the best in this country. And if it weren't for the Navy SEALs and our armed services around the world, this country wouldn't be what it is today.
Well, we appreciate your support. We recognize that what we do is very important. Here we are at a ball game on a Saturday night. Of those 22 families, of those 22 SEALs that were killed, there were 34 children who aren't going to have a father to go to a ball game like this. More interestingly, unfortunately, 2 of those women are pregnant with children who will never know their father.
That is well said, sir. Tom Richards, one of the best of the best. And again, you can text SEAL, S-E-A-L, to 90999. It's a $10 donation to the Navy SEAL Foundation. Tom Brenneman, Chris Welsh, doesn't get better than this guy.
No, it does not. And, you know, I would never dare tell anybody how to spend their money. I don't want anybody telling me how to spend my money. But there are a lot of charities that you can give money to. And there are so many of them out there that are near and dear to your heart, Chris's heart, my heart, any of you watching the game right now. But it's hard to imagine there would be a better one to give money to than that one right there, having just spent time out in Coronado. And that, of course, is the home base of the Navy SEALs, where they have been training forever on Coronado Island. That is an amazing group of people, and not just those that are SEALs, but their families as well.
You're right about that. Well said.
Chris Marrero bats with a runner at first base and 2 outs here in the top of the 6th inning, with the Reds leading 5-2 and quickly 0-2.
Well, Marrero, as you see, if you set him up and look at him from a pitcher standpoint, still a guy that is really not covering the outside part of the plate. Watch his left foot. He lifts it up and gets it down in time, but he really doesn't get himself in alignment to hit that outside pitch. He's got a little bit of movement this way with this foot.
Broken bat, 2 hopper to Renteria. He plants and throws, and that'll do it in the 6th inning. A hit a man left. Nationals are stranded 5. The Reds lead 5-2. Welcome back to the Coors Light 6th inning, and now it's time for the Coors Light Freeze Can. Some of the pictures and Images from our game thus far tonight. Blake fell behind after giving up the solo home runs, but then the big throwing error led to a 3-run Reds third. Got another run in the fourth. Our Coors Light freeze cam brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. 5-2 Reds, bottom of the 6th inning we go. Cairo for 1 at a sac fly RBI in that 3-run third. That is a fair ball up the left field line. And Cairo has his first hit tonight. A leadoff double. Well, we invite you to catch all the action this year, and only one more lengthy homestand to go. Great atmosphere. The Cincinnati Bell Riverboat deck here at Great American Ballpark, a 2-story outdoor party area, straightaway center field. For more information, contact the group sales department at 513-765-7600. Been a while, Chris, since you and I were up there.
I enjoyed it up there. I was hoping we'd be able to broadcast the game from there sometime this season.
I know they were looking into that when you're paired up with your old partner for many years, George Grant. I believe you guys are together that Milwaukee weekend.
There we are.
Be on the pregame show on that Friday night.
As a contestant on the game show.
Indeed.
Well, it's a good time up there. We put in the lap of Kristen Roberts to get that done, and haven't heard anything back.
Yeah, it's still sitting there. Always some spilled Skyline chili and
you have to set your
the end of a Budweiser. What's that? Two and one to Drew Stubbs. There goes a runner, and they pay no attention to Cairo, who easily steals third. Only his second stolen base and just his 5th attempt on the year.
Well, a lot of base stealers will tell you that third base is easier than second base. You get a bigger lead, you get a running start, and against a left-hander like Detweiler, who really hasn't paid much attention to those guys at second base tonight, he just about walked over there to third, so that makes it awfully easy now for Stubbs to pick up another run.
Diving play made by Espinosa, throws back behind the runner, and the ball is dropped by the third baseman. No way Espinosa was going to throw out Stubbs, so he took a shot at Cairo and didn't get it.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that he didn't have a better shot at Stubbs, actually, given the ball was hit so hard by Stubbs. If he had thought, I'm going to come up throwing to first base, he probably would have had Stubbs, but he probably also thought there's no way that Cairo's not going on that play.
That'll be scored, an infield hit for Stubbs, his second infield hit tonight. They're on the corners with nobody out, and here's Renteria. Strike one. We're in the bottom of the 6th inning. Nobody out. Runners on the corners. Reds trying to add to a 5-2 lead. And Renteria waiting on this 0-2 from Detweiler. And that ball is hammered into deep left center field. Plenty deep enough to bring in a run. Caught 2 steps in front of the wall by Worth. It's hard to believe that Stubbs is not standing at second base. Having said that, but the Reds tack on a run, and they lead 6-2. And Torrio with his 29th run batted in. Well, he hit that ball a long way.
He really did, and he had Worth going back when he caught that ball. Brooke Jacoby telling him, hey, another dinner roll, and that ball would have been out of here.
Ball one to Ryan Hannigan. Hannigan struck out his first time up tonight, but singled with 1 out and scored on the Brandon Phillips hit in the 4th inning. It's now 6 runs, 8 hits. They've taken advantage, as we brought up earlier, in the 1st inning and again in the 3rd inning on errors by Chris Marrero. One and 1 to Hannigan. Reds have a little action out in their bullpen, although Mike Leake is standing in the on-deck circle. Sam LeCure is down there throwing. Short left field, and a good jump by Morse to come in and get it. And I feel like that'll be where Morse is playing again next year. He's had to come in to play first base this season because of the injury to Adam LaRoche. They figure he'll be in left field this year, and then it won't be long, of course, before the #1 pick in the land from a year ago figures to be playing left field for the Washington Nationals.
That would be Bryce Harper.
Indeed.
So you bring Bryce Harper up here, and if he is everything they expect, you get Steven Strasburg back. You have Zimmerman. I'm not sure if Detweiler is a guy that's guaranteed a spot in the rotation next year. Perhaps.
But he'll go to spring training with a shot to be in.
Yeah. They probably would like to sign last night's pitcher, Chen-Ming Wong, who seems to get better and better each time out. They've got a chance to be a better ball club. We've said that before, Tom, but man, they are in a division that is as tough as any in this league.
You know, especially when you look on the radar at where the teams in their division appear to be going. There's a breaking ball in the inside corner. I mean, granted, they might be getting a little long in the tooth, but the Philadelphia Phillies are still the best team in the National League. The second best team in the National League is a team in the same division, the Atlanta Braves. And it's not like the pitching staffs from those two teams are showing any signs of slowing down. Here's a check swing and a miss by Leake, and that'll end the inning. We'll talk about the other two teams in that division as well, the Mets and the Marlins. 6-2, Reds lead it. We go to the 7th.
brought to you by AT&T. Cincinnati Children's ranks 3rd in the nation on U.S. News and World Report's honor roll for Best Children's Hospitals 2011. By your Cincinnati Northern Kentucky Honda dealers. Visit mycincinnatihondadealer.com for current offers. And by Wendy's. You know when it's real.
Take a look at the Honda standings in the National League East. Chris, that's what we were just talking about before we went to break. The Philadelphia Phillies are 3 wins away from being 40 games over 500. The Atlanta Braves are 25 over. And then the other 2 teams in the division, the New York Mets and the Florida Marlins. I mean, the Mets, if for no other reason, you know they're going to spend some money, barring more bad news about the fiscal shape of that franchise. And we know they've been in the news a lot about the whole Madoff scam and so on and so forth. And then there's the Florida Marlins, who have a lot of young talent. They're moving into a brand new stadium, and you got to believe their payroll is going to go up, and they'll be more active in trying to bring in some better free agent players.
Agreed.
Sam LeCure now takes over on the mound. So Mike Leake gives him 6 tonight and allows 6 hits, 2 runs.
Well, quality start for Leake. Prior to his last 2 starts, he had 5 consecutive quality starts, and he hit a bump against the Nationals, then the last time out against the Pirates, but he gave the Reds what they needed tonight. The only runs the DC Nats have gotten off of Mike Leake were those 2 solo home runs. One by Jason Worth, the other by the catcher Wilson Ramos. Leake got a little bit on his way of run support tonight. The Reds got 6, although several of those runs were unearned. They picked up 8 hits overall. Now, Mike really has been a guy this year that has had a fair amount of run support. When he takes the mound, for one reason or another, he pitches on the right day. By contrast, Dantrell Willis, who did not get the win last night and has yet to have a win for the Reds, even though he's pitched very well, has gotten just about half the amount of runs on an average that Mike has. So really, it's not when you pitch, it's not how you pitch, it's when you pitch. For that win column anyway.
In the air right field, it'll back up Jay Bruce short of the track, and Ramos retired by LeCure, who has teamed down 4 runs in the 7th inning, and Ramos is hacking 3-0 against a brand new pitcher in the game. I'm sure he'll be reminded about that later on tonight from Davey Johnson.
It may not even be that long. I mean, there is such thing as a take sign, though. So if you want to give him a take sign, how about giving a flash into him?
And that's where managers, oftentimes you'll hear managers talk about having to learn their players. Of course, Ramos has been around long enough, and Johnson's had the job long enough where perhaps he would know him well enough by now where it wouldn't necessitate a take sign. 3-0 down by 4 in the 7th. But Davey Johnson will certainly file that away down the road. Alex Cora bats with 1 out. Cora batting for Detweiler. Cora, the kind of guy down the road, and the only other player I can think of in the league, Chris, that you and I have talked openly about, we wouldn't be surprised if they wound up being a big league manager sometime a number of years from now, would be Craig Counsell of the Milwaukee Brewers. Cora's another guy that would not be a surprise to see him managing in the major leagues. His brother Joey, longtime major league player, also longtime major league coach. Not quite sure what that meeting was all about between West and Sam LeCure.
I've got a pretty good idea that he went out to talk to Sam, and they're going to award a ball in the at-bat to Alex Cora because Sam licked his fingers and then did not wipe it off. So he went out to tell him, and I could read the words out of Joe West's mouth is just wipe it off. That's a recent rule change that Major League Baseball has made in the last couple of seasons.
And so the count is 2-2 rather than 1-2. LeCure takes care of business on the very next pitch, 2 outs in the inning.
Well, it used to be that if you wanted to go to your mouth as a pitcher, you'd have to leave the dirt area entirely and we'll walk back and then wipe it off and walk back up on the mound. But it seemed to delay the game a little bit. So Major League Baseball, in an effort to keep the games moving along, decided, all right, we're going to let the pitchers go to their mouths on a dry day, on a cold day, whatever. You can lick your fingers. You can't apply it directly to the baseball. You've got to show that you're wiping it off your fingers and then touch the baseball. And evidently Sam did not do that. If he did, it was maybe hidden by Cornelius, the mustache.
That has its own Twitter account. There's a lot of that going around these days.
It might need its own mascot if it's got its own Twitter account.
Well, speaking of mascots, before the game today, they had a wiffle ball game out on the field involving a number of different mascots, whether it be from local universities, whether it be the Reds mascots, the Newport Aquarium mascot, Charlie Brown from the Snoopy series. They were here. But the one that stood out perhaps for us more than any other would have been the mascot from Frisch's. As you get a look at Lucy there. And the only reason the mascot from Frisch's stood out for us, especially the big boy, was because Jim Kelch, Reds announcer and spokesman for Frisch's, was wearing the mascot uniform.
Not only wearing it, I mean, he was Mr. Big Boy today. I mean, you have to take on the whole personality of Big Boy. You just can't put the costume on. And who better to do that than Jim Kelch?
What a job he did. Look at him playing to the crowd.
He scored a run.
Made a couple of plays defensively.
And always had that smile.
All night long. He might have worn that back home tonight because he has a night off. He might be walking around the streets in the neighborhood near you right now with that Big Boy outfit on. You know, for a few yucks, he could be standing out in front of Frisch's around the area, just holding his hand up and standing very still.
So if you see him, beep your horn.
It's pretty cool Jim Kelch took the time to do that tonight.
Really, on a night that he did not have to be at the ballpark?
Give yourself a round of applause, Jim.
That away.
Nice. That's big league. Swung on and fouled away by Ian Desmond. It remains 1 ball and 2 strikes. Young lady in the stands all fired up. Made the play behind home plate. There she is. She's looking at you, Chris.
Nice play.
LeCure trying to make it a 1-2-3 7th inning. A strike away from doing so. And it's a 3 ball 2 strike count on Ian Desmond. Well, we're just about set to get started out in San Francisco tonight. And the only reason we bring it up is because former Moeller Crusader standout Eric Surkamp is making his major league debut on the mound tonight for the Giants. There's strike 3 to retire the side. Middle of the 7th. 6-2. Reds in front. Take a look at Jim Kelch in action wearing the big boy uni tonight. Scoring a run. Well done, Jim Kelch. Built a little like number 5 back in his day. And of course, Saturday, September the 17th, Johnny Bench night. Join the Reds in honoring the Hall of Famer with an unveiling of a bronze statue right outside the Reds Hall of Fame and Museum. Johnny will throw out the first pitch at night. That is going to be a great night. You know, Johnny Bench, one of the great names in the history of Major League Baseball. Not only catchers, but I mean, he's a guy, you just say Johnny Bench. And people who follow baseball, they know that name. No explanation needed. Who will ever forget the season Bench was going to retire? There is an idea of what the statue is going to look like. A miniature version of it there. And they kicked off the big Johnny Bench exhibit over at the Reds Hall of Fame back in the spring. That is really going to be a big night. Remember that night, that Johnny Bench night as a player? When he hit that home run. I mean, if that didn't send goosebumps up and down your arms, I don't know what would.
Well, the call by Joe Nuxhall was classic.
Really was. Henry Rodriguez takes over on the mound, pitching in his 44th game of the year. Reds lead by 4. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning. 3-1 to Brandon Phillips. Chappelle waiting, and then Joey Votto. Desmond charging and throws out Brandon to begin the 7th inning. Time to take a look at our Farmers Insurance report card on former Red manager Davey Johnson. Had an outstanding playing career, 4-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove winner. As a manager, won the '86 World Series with the New York Mets. Manager of the year, taking Baltimore to the playoffs in '97. Took the Reds to the National League Championship Series in '95. And were it not for the strike in 1994, who knows? Johnson may have won a World Series with Cincinnati. He was only here for a little over 3 years, but Davey's wife is from Cincinnati. And he just talks glowingly about his time in this city and coming back to this city. He is one sharp cat.
Well, you're not kidding about that.
He is a man who certainly can speak to personal tragedy in his life. Many of you may remember the story a number of years ago when he lost his daughter in a surfing accident. I mean, I don't know if any parent could ever fathom the loss in a parent's life quite like that. Sharp one-hopper and a beautiful play by Desmond. Likewise on the other end by Marrero.
Well, Marrero gives us a little bit of good glove work right there. That's a great play by Desmond. We've seen him And Danny Espinosa makes some nice defensive plays tonight, but a good pickup at the other end. Gets down low to field the short hop and robs Dave Chappelle of a base hit.
Been a hitless night for Joey Votto, 0 for 3, although he did reach on the fielder's choice error back in the third inning and scored a run. This is probably the final try tonight for Votto to extend his on-base streak to 30 consecutive games. He's already had a 33-gamer this year, right now sitting on 29. An error does not count in a streak like that. And he's gone on strike, so it might come to an end. We'll see. Go to the 8th. All Cincinnati so far.
Dennis Worth in the third inning. A big one. Going right out the right center field fence over the head of Drew Stubbs. That was a solo shot, one of two that Mike Leake gave up on the night, and that is our Coors Light cold blast. Jason Worth will lead off the inning as we go to the bottom or the top of the 8th. Worth, Zimmerman, and Michael Morse will face Sam LeCure, who's on for his second inning of work.
Worth bounced to second in the first inning, hit the home run to right center field in the third, then grounded out to Renteria in the 5th. Another real nice crowd here tonight. Had over 35,000 plus on Friday night. Fireworks after the game, better than 30,000 here tonight. And again, tickets are available for the rest of this homestand. A day game tomorrow. Chris mentioned earlier 3 consecutive night games with the Phillies in town. See the Reds take on the National League's very best starting Monday night. Cole Hamels in the opener, Roy Halladay in the second game, Cliff Lee in the third game. Reds will counter with Homer Bailey, Bronson Arroyo, Dantrell Willis, and then Mike Leake comes back for the series finale against Mr. Worley, you said, right?
Yeah, 9-1, Vince Worley. There's not a pitcher the Phillies are bringing in here with an earned run average over 2.8. You're laughing because you're not pitching against them or batting against them.
Better said.
You know what, though? It's a great opportunity to come out and watch some great baseball.
No doubt.
I mean, just a solid team, great pitching.
You know, you take away the 2 games in the playoffs last year, and I say 2 because that second game is a game the Reds, they had that game. And unfortunately, they had a couple of bad things happen to them. Jay Bruce lost that ball in the lights. You know, they just had a couple of things that it just wasn't meant to be. But during the regular season last year, the Reds and Phillies played some great games against one another, and this year was no different. When the Reds went in there for 4 earlier this season, they got kicked around in the opener. But for the next 3 days, that was very, very exciting baseball. You may remember they lit up Cliff Lee in that game, the final game of the series, but they gave up a pile of runs. Unfortunately, that was on the heels of the 19-inning game. And then Homer Bailey got hurt, you may remember, very early in that day game. But some very exciting baseball between the 2 teams. So we'll see what happens starting on Monday night. Worth finally back in there, and the 2-2 pitch is a breaking ball that Cure wanted it, didn't get it. Good pitch. And that one is strike 3.
Well, you know, it looked like Sam LeCure on the previous pitch threw the perfect pitch. And since it was just a hair outside, to come right back and make it even more perfect, and he threads the needle right there.
3 batters in a row. LeCure has not only struck out, but struck out 3 in a row looking. And here is Ryan Zimmerman, 0 for 3 tonight, has not hit the ball out of the infield.
Well, that is good control right there. I mean, he is throwing the ball exactly where he wants it. And if you can control that low outside spot to any hitter, left-handed hitter or right-handed hitter, you're ahead of the game.
Came back with a fastball, strike 2.
I mean, Hannigan hasn't had to move his glove yet.
Didn't have to move it there either. They set up off the outside corner. He hit the spot. But Zimmerman didn't chase it, and it's 1 ball and 2 strikes. Struck him out on a high fastball. They're 2 away in the inning. 4 batters in a row struck out by LeCure.
But don't you like the way that Ryan Hannigan, as he's giving the sign, is watching the hitter's eyes, making sure that he doesn't, you know, cheat by looking behind him a little bit. Watch him. He goes, now don't look back here. He's going to hold his glove over there to try to maybe fool Zimmerman into thinking that they're coming inside. Instead, here comes a 4-seamer right up at the top of the strike zone, and see you later.
Now Michael Moore is 0 for 3 tonight, and like Zimmerman, has not hit the ball out of the infield. Ball 1. We started to mention very briefly that Eric Surkamp from Moeller High School, who in 2004 pitched and was the winning pitcher when Moeller won the state baseball championship under Mike Cameron, was a senior the following year, and then was drafted by the San Francisco Giants. He's been among their top pitching prospects on his rise through the minor leagues over the last 4 years, and is starting tonight in San Francisco And the Giants in the bottom of the first inning have given him a 1-0 lead.
Well, that's exciting. Of course, he went down to North Carolina State for a couple of years. Sir Camp did, where the Giants plucked him there. He was a 6th-round pick. Big left-hander, 6 feet 5 inches tall as Sir Camp. Well, that has been a school that has produced an awful lot of fine major leaguers.
Of course, he went down to NC State with Andrew Brackman, his teammate, 6'10", another big guy, #1 pick by the New York Yankees, who has had all kinds of injury problems, but is hoping to get a chance. In fact, going to spring training this year, he was given a chance to be in the New York Yankees starting rotation. Then got hurt again at the end of spring training. Two and two, the count on Morse. And that one is clobbered deep into left field, and that's a solo home run to make it a 6-3 game.
Double-decker.
Home run number 22 for Morse. 73rd run batted in. It's a 6-3. Reds lead the 8th. Where was your major league debut, Chris?
Candlestick Park.
Same city anyways,
Same
Mr.
city.
Camp. Phillips behind the back, and that one gets away from Votto and into the camera well. That'll be an infield hit and then an error on Brandon Phillips, allowing Espinosa to advance 90 feet. That was a play we saw Phillips make earlier this year when he actually went between his legs.
That's a nice bunt by Danny Espinosa. I mean, here you get a guy like Michael Morse, who just hit a ball about 500 feet, and you're coming up next. So you're thinking, what can I do as an encore? I certainly can't hit it like he can. So he just kind of drops a little dookie drag down the first baseline there and picks up a base hit.
When they called that meeting out on the mound, Joe West, it appeared, knew right away that they were going to make a pitching change, and everybody sort of standing around looking at each other. It was almost as though Joe went out there and turned around and looked in the dugout and said, well, come on out here. Let's go.
Do you want me to make the call, Dusty, or do you want to do it? Maybe you could write a song about that, huh?
You know what? Let's think of the title of that while we're in a break. Hey, you can sneak in before the year's over. MLB.TV, baseball everywhere. Well, it's a good thing we're still promoting that here in August. Bill Bray takes over on the mound. Has had a very good year. He'll be facing Johnny Gomes, who gets a nice round of applause from the crowd here at Great American Ballpark. Johnny traded a month and a day ago from the Reds to the Washington Nationals. Such a huge part of his team winning the National League Central Division Championship last year. It's a big out here for Bill Bray and the Reds. Inning began 6-2. LeCure retired the first two on strikeouts, but then allowed the solo home run, followed by a bunt single from Espinoza. And you don't want Washington thinking they're going to get back in this thing. 0-2. What do you think about that title of the song?
You know, I've got writer's block right now.
It's a good thing that doesn't happen during Chris's checklist.
Oh, it does. Especially in the prep time thereof, but Joe Luckup usually comes to my rescue.
Don't throw him in front of the bus for that.
Johnny looking to run into a fastball.
Pulled softly to the third baseman Cairo, and Bray takes care of Gomes to retire the side. Home run by Morse. Reds still lead by 3. John Morrell hot dog play of the game. And what a play it was, going back to the second inning by Danny Espinoza to throw out Miguel Cairo. Beautifully done. So Colin Ballister takes over on the mound, replacing Rodriguez. And he gets Jay Bruce on a roller down to first. 1 pitch and 1 out. Francisco Cordero cranking it up down in the Reds bullpen. Barring any runs here in the Cincinnati eighth inning, you'll have a chance to notch a save in this one.
I'm not really sure how the official score has it, Tom. Maybe you've got it, but I've got 3 of the runs unearned for the Reds tonight, so they have been a fortunate side of receiving some gifts from the shoddy Nats defense. Each team with 8 hits. And the Reds, as inefficient as they were in getting runners in last night, were a whole lot better tonight. They've only left 3 on base.
One and 2 on Miguel Cairo, and he's 1 of 2 in the game, and now making 1 out of 3 as he takes a call 3rd strike.
Well, Ballister already better than last night. Yep, it crossed the plate right at the knees. Last night pitched a 1/3 of an inning, gave up 3 hits and a run. He's retired the first 2 he's faced.
2 away in the inning, and it's lined into right field. That'll be a base hit for Drew Stubbs.
Oh, I haven't seen that in a while. I'm talking about a line drive to right field from Drew Stubbs. 3 hits on the night for Stubbs.
Renteria looks at a pitch low. 1 ball and 1 strike.
So if you're looking for a breaking ball to go on, he went curveball, fastball, maybe breaking ball right here for Renteria. Might not be a bad idea for Stubbs to go. I mean, if he gets thrown out, what do you lose? All you're doing is trying to add run number 4 to your lead, get him in scoring position. And diving back to the bag like that sometimes tells you he might have the intention of going right there. He's got the green light all along. Drew does.
He got his 33rd stolen base of the year back in the 2nd inning. The way the year began offensively for Stubbs, you thought, boy, this guy was in line for, even a 30-30 year. At the end of April, he had 7 home runs. But then all of a sudden, the strikeouts began to pile up. Lack of production. And certainly Stubbs felt the pressure of everybody talking about it. Before you knew it, you were getting into the end of June, and he only had 9 of them. Renteria gone on strikes, and that'll retire the side. So off we go to the 9th. Cordero trying to nail it down and make a winner of Mike Leake for the 11th time this year.
of the game. A sacrifice fly, that time to right field, will play Dave Seppelt. Drew Stubbs in on the act. This one to deep center field, chasing Jason Worth back. Joey Votto comes in to score, and in the 6th inning, Edgar Renteria in the sacrifice act again to center field, and Miguel Cairo. So 3 sac flies in the game. The difference in this one right here is the Reds lead at 6-3. Paul Llanos comes in to play shortstop in place of Edgar Renteria, and on the hill, Francisco Cordero trying to nail down save number 29.
Only 5 blown saves the entire year for Cordero. Has converted each of his last 11 save opportunities, and that is a season best streak for Francisco. Of course, his saves on the last road trip Tuesday and Wednesday in Florida were his 200th and 201st in the National League. And 141 of those 201 as a National Leaguer have come wearing a Reds uniform. Fastball on the inside corner to Marrero is a called strike. 1-1. Latter third in the batting order. Romero, Ramos, and Brian Bixler, who came on defensively in the bottom of the 8th. Mike Leake went the front 6, allowed 2 earned runs. Sam LeCure a run in an inning and 2/3, struck out 4. And Bill Bray retired the only batter he faced, ending the top of the 8th inning.
Got him on a slider again, going outside right on the black with that one. Tell you what, you know, if you've been noticing where the Reds pitchers, starting with Mike Leake tonight, have thrown in the area of the strike zone, that is, against the majority of these Washington National hitters, with the exception of Mike Morse, you pitch everybody else outside.
And they've been hitting their spots.
And they've been getting them out. Got one up to Jason Worth, hit a home run. Wilson Ramos bombed a hanging breaking ball. But for the most part, they just stayed down and away, and they've had a pretty good run of it. Really not a lot of adjustment on the part of the Nationals hitters.
Two to Ramos. Two and two now on the Nationals catcher with 1 out in the 9th, and this should be the 2nd out on the 2-hopper to Giannis. It is. So now Cordero an out away from Reds, picking up their 3rd consecutive win. Mike Leake would get his 11th victory of the season. And of course, it would pull the Reds back to the 500 mark. So it'll be their 11th win in their last 16 games if Cordero can finish this one off.
Well, that's the first of 2 goals that Dusty Baker's laid out for his ball club. One is to get to 500. The other is to catch and surpass the St. Louis Cardinals for 2nd place.
When the Reds won that final game of the St. Louis series, that road trip from St. Louis to Milwaukee leading up to the All-Star break, that 13-inning game, they were 44-44. That was the last time, back on July the 6th, when the Reds were a 500 team. until right now. Leake wins it. Cordero saves it. And the Reds have beaten the Nationals in back-to-back games. They've won 3 in a row overall. And they have a chance for the 3-game series sweep tomorrow afternoon after a 6-3 win here tonight.